This film was taken in 1958, and they're scraping the snow off of the ice with the Jeep. Originally they used a team of horses and then graduated to a tractor, and then the last years used the Jeep to do this. The ice business was was purchased in 1910 by my grandfather, Philip Dix, from George Inn, who formerly ran the ice business there. In 1924, the business was purchased by my dad, Milton Dix, and Uncle Elmer Dix, who are still running the business. At one time, there were 4 ice houses on this area, and they filled those plus ice houses in Janesville. They harvested about 4,000 tons of ice annually. This is a saw that was made from a Chevrolet truck engine, and the blacksmith welded it onto skids, and this blade goes into the ice, only partially sawing it through so that the water cannot seep up through and refreeze. You notice the little iron along the side which measures the width of the ice. After it's cut this way, they do enough for one day and then cut it off with hand saws each morning and float it down this channel where the man is cutting it into about 300-pound cakes. These cakes are then into the ice house on the endless chain. There are 3 different levels of which the ice can drop into the house. And these men are using pike poles to push this up through the channel. And of course each morning this channel is frozen over, so they have to again open that up to get the ice harvest started every day. Here those floats have been sawed off, and now this man is taking a bar to break them away. And those, the thickness of that ice is probably 12, 14 inches thick. In the last years of the ice business, most of the ice was sold to the Bowman Dairy in Janesville because they found that this ice lasted 3 to 4 times longer than artificial ice. These little blocks of wood that you notice on the chain it's an endless chain, and they pick up a cake of ice as they feed it into that chain and then go up the chute from there. The ice house walls are double thick insulated with an air space in between to keep for insulation. And they cover the ice with marsh hay. And then about the middle of the season, probably the top layer of ice is melted away, but they also then are able to put marsh hay down along the sides of the ice to preserve it. Some use sawdust to cover the ice, but the experience in 1910 when my grandfather bought the business, the old ice house that he purchased in the deal burst apart the first year when they put sawdust on the ice, and so he ended up with a loss in having to build a new building. So from that time on, they always used the marsh hay instead of sawdust. There were some little spikes spaced along those chutes as they went down into the house so that they would slow the cakes down after they started sliding into the house. And this was really the hard work of trying to get this, moving this manually into place. And you little rope hanging up there was attached to a bell up in the control tower. There was another one at the lake, so if a block of ice got stuck anywhere, of course, it was immediately pull the rope to stop the engine before they got more ice piled up. There's the machinery that did work.
Okay, from the stop and start.
This is a film of the cutting of natural ice on Clear Lake taken in 1958. It may well be the last lake ice business in the state conducted here by Lakeside Ice and Coal Company. Begun in 1910 strictly as an ice business, the firm stored ice for Janesville residents at the Old Boobs Brewery, South Main Street and Boyd Avenue for many years, as well as filling 4 buildings at the lake with some 4,000 tons of ice annually. The business was originally run by Mr. George Inn, and then in 1910 purchased by my grandfather, Philip Dix. And Frank Morris also ran an ice business on the other side of the lake, but eventually he sold out to the Dixes. In this, they are scraping the snow off here by Jeep. Originally they used a team of horses and after that a tractor before going to the Jeep. This saw was made by a blacksmith with an old Chevrolet engine and welded onto some skids, and the circular saw cuts the ice partially through, and then they saw enough for each day, and then afterwards it is cut the other direction with a handsaw. The little runner that drops into the slot in the ice keeps the distance of the ice equal all the way down the row. Here they have sawed off the pieces of ice and floated them to the splitting chute where this man is cutting them into smaller cakes of ice which weigh around 300 pounds. The ice is approximately 12 to 14 inches thick. This this is Henry Knott just walking through here, one fellow that used to work on the ice every year. And the fellow plowing snow before was Harold Schrock. This is Harry Frederick. He was an uncle of my mother's. Here they're cutting off those blocks that have been sawed through and floating them down to get them ready to float down the channel. There you can see the cakes going up the chute. This is the Dix homestead in the background in one of the Dix houses there. There he's making those little 300-pound blocks. As this ice is fed into the chain, there one is stuck, and he's had to climb up there and chip that out so that it will break loose and slide into the ice house. Those little slats that you see on the chain catch the cake of ice and take it up the chute. And there are some nails put into the chute on the inside to slow the cakes down as they get into the ice house so that they don't go too fast. They try to space the feeding of the ice cakes in there so as to give the men inside a chance to get them out of the way before the next one slides down. In the foreground is Philip Dix, an older brother of the Dixes, who was working on the ice house there. My dad, Milton Dix, is up there looking out of the tower. He was running the engine. Two little boys that you saw earlier on the film in the sled were my sons, Bill and Bob Schronk. You can see they took quite a bit of the lake that they covered in cutting this ice and getting it into the shed every year. The ice house walls were 2 thicknesses of board with an airspace in between for the insulation. Inside the house, the blocks were manhandled into place, and by the late summer, the first layer of ice next to the walls had melted, and more marsh hay was then put on the ice. Originally, they used sawdust, but in 1910, when my grandfather bought the business, the sawdust took on too much moisture and split the sides of the ice house. So it meant rebuilding the house. So after that time, they always used marsh hay. This is Louis Hillman, another fellow that worked on the ice. And as you can see, that rope there is connected to a cowbell that they could ring either from in the ice house or on the lakeside, so that if something went wrong one place or the other, they could. Hotel that was originally built by Mr. Tillman, and it was the Dix Homestead from 1901 until about 15 years ago when it was sold to an outsider. Now this building is going to be torn down in the spring. This was the old living room and parlor of the home. The old original looks like fixtures are still here that have been redone.